and welcome to Capacity TV. My name is Natalie Bannerman, Deputy Editor at Capacity Media. We are here at ITW 2022 and I'm delighted to be joined by Obaid Rahman, who is Head of Wholesale at Axiata. Obaid, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Lovely to be here today.
So in 2021, we did speak to you and you told Capacity about your plans to build a new Asia-wide superhighway. Talk to us about how that work is progressing.
In terms of the whole journey, it has been relatively slow compared to what we had expected. So I just barely come into the organization. If you remember, we had set up the whole strategic framework. Yes, Asian superhighway was something that we envisioned, but we thought we could do it in about 2 to 3 years' time. But seems it's going to be a longer journey for us. For simple reasons that we were expecting that the region is going to open up, the lockdown is not going to be there, but the ramifications of COVID were felt much longer than what we had anticipated. So because of that, the journey has been delayed, but we are on the right track. Asian superhighway is still something that we're looking at. Is something that we want to basically do, but the strategy has been changed slightly because what we want to do now is bring in a mesh of network, connect all our cables, all our ecosystems, the sub-ecosystems that our MNOs have, and then basically create a superhighway. So that's one part of work that we are doing, and for that we are basically going for some regional connectivity. And if I take you one by one, let's start with Sri Lanka and Maldives. We have commissioned a cable over there called MSC, which connects Maldives to Sri Lanka. So that's part of making that superhighway, but these are the arteries that connect it to the superhighway. Then in Indonesia, we've connected Batam with Borneo for primarily one reason that there's a lot of traffic between Indonesia and Malaysia. So creating that hopping point again, it's kind of an artery, but fits into the bigger picture that we are basically looking at. So a couple of other investments, but regulatory constraints are also there. We have to work through that. We are lobbying a few governments right now just to make sure that we get the right econometrics when we develop all these cable systems. Now let's come to the bigger picture, the superhighway. Since 2021, we have become a consortium partner in IAX, right? So that's going to basically bring it from India to Singapore. As you already know, that we have capacity on BBG, but on the other side, if you go east, we are basically a kind of a partner in Echo, with Google and Facebook. So once that is commissioned, we have ISG as well going into Australia through Singapore. So these are the bigger pipes. Once they basically come together and converge, that's going to convert into a superhighway. But it's going to take another couple of years before we see, the benefits coming in, once they're commissioned and everything. So, as I said earlier, on the right trajectory, but in terms of the timelines, it's a little bit prolonged as we had expected.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I mean, good to know that the project is still keeping at pace, regardless. But of course, one thing we also wanted to question about. We know that your division is a fairly new division as part of the Axiata group. Talk to us about how you are building out your ecosystem to help support digital transformation.
There are three things that we believe would entail digital transformation, especially in wholesale carrier services, whether it's an internal transformation or an external transformation. So one is partners, second is platforms, the third is connectivity. So, if I talk about partners, that's one thing that, I took up as a challenge, when I came into the organization. Been about 16 months now, but key thing was to basically, first of all, identify who are our key partners, who are the strategic partners we want to work, who are the ones who can basically add value to our service proposition, who are the ones we can add value back to, right? And yes, there is a little bit of conventional partners in there as well, but most of them are moving into a digital, world as well. They are transforming themselves. Perhaps, they can help us, we can cross-pollinate. So a lot of work has gone into partnerships per se. So we've established that. We know who our key partners now are in the region and beyond. And one thing is for sure now, and I'm sure you would have seen it in Capacity Middle East, other fora, the way we are basically positioned now, we are the Asian partner of choice now, right? Which wasn't there about 2 years back. So that's one thing that has really happened to basically, set that foundation. Now, beyond that comes platforms, right? So there are, again, conventional platforms that we have. They are being rapidly digitalized. For a very simple reason, we need to basically have more analytical capabilities to know what our customers want before we can basically, go on to that digital journey, right? So that has started. If I talk about our roaming platforms, our basic voice platforms, they are being digitalized. We have more insight, we have more information which we can use to basically, go forward. In terms of data and capacity, as I said, we are building up that whole ecosystem. So that will again come in as these cables get commissioned. We put more product and services on top of it. That will happen. But the journey has started. Last but not the least is the connectivity part, right? So on that, we have, with our operating companies, the MNOs we have in 6, key strategic markets, we've already started building up those capabilities. And that basically takes me more towards the enterprise digital transformation. That's not an internal thing, an external, transformation that's happening. The enterprise customers want that. So, things like SD-WAN proposition, CDNs, multi-cloud connectivity, we are basically, just evolving and making all these propositions more digital than they were in the past.
So, that kind of ties quite nicely into my next question, and of course, not wanting you to repeat yourself, but between now and 2023, we know that you don't have a crystal ball, but, what are your kind of strategic priorities? Is it in line with those 3 pillars that you mentioned?
So talking about consumer segment, first of all, roaming has again been very important to us. Again, all these 6 markets or the whole of Asia Pacific, very tourist centric. It just got completely killed, right? We were just, down to the rock bottom. So key objective, key target, key vision for us, at least, short to near term, is to make sure that, we resuscitate that whole roaming proposition again. Right, because that's kind of a lifeline for most of the MNOs there, all the revenue that comes in. So we are seeing early signs of revival in terms of tourism. That's going to drive hospitality, that drives the whole economy. But within that whole value proposition, roaming comes in as well. So that's one key priority for us, immediate. But other things, going back to voice, 5G is prevalent. We've already launched in 2 markets. Obviously, I'm going to talk later about the use cases, but basic 5G proposition, again, on roaming, VoLTE enablement, voice interconnects, those are things that we are looking at. And, we don't want to basically delay it. We just want to catch the wave upfront right now. So that's our second priority. Third is moving a little bit towards enterprise side. And as I said, there's a significant amount of digital transformation happening in the enterprise sector, within that market or within that region, which kind of has changed us to basically not shy away from the consumer segment, but again, have a more focus on the enterprise side. So most of the service propositions that we're coming out with, they're more geared towards the enterprise part, but obviously within the wholesale domain. So things like, IoT enablement, but not locally because we've done a lot of work in the domestic IoT part, but cross-border IoT connectivity, multi-cloud connectivity, also making sure that, data that can be basically kept locally is cached rather than just being put on, some expensive cables. So these are 2 or 3 areas that we are working on at this point in time to enable, our enterprise segment at this stage.
Well, one final question from me then. We are here obviously at ITW 2022. It would be remiss of me not to ask how the event has been for you so far, and I suppose also being back live in person.
It's been amazing, second event since COVID started for me personally. I did not attend ITW last year, so I don't have a comparison, but it's like normal, it's like what it was back in 2019. So, it's good to basically meet up with people. And again, this face-to-face interaction is making a lot of difference personally and for our business as well. Out of that virtual world, can shake hands. So it's good, living and breathing the whole thing now.
Obaid, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.